Okay guys, so we got the build here. I did not pick out these parts except for a couple of them. The card, the power supply, hard drive, but I'm doing this build for a friend. He's definitely going to be using it for doing a little bit of video editing, but he is actually into mining. So we got the RTX, the MSI RTX 3080. You're pretty much familiar with that card. If you've been following this channel, I got multiple videos of stuff that's on it. Been using that card for a while. This right here, don't have the box, but this is the Intel i700F. And this is a good chip, 8 cores, and this is definitely going to be plenty. Well, with the F series, it can't be overclocked, but he doesn't need that, so that's fine. It actually comes with the cooler, but we're going to use a aftermarket cooler that he picked out, which is the I think this is called a Bico Core T405W Spectrum. It's a 120 millimeter cooler, and this particular chip, the 10700F, actually is only 65 watts, and so you're not going to be overclocking. So yeah, so that should be enough for cooling the actual CPU. We have RGB fans. We actually have 2, which is a total of 6. 2 boxes, total of 6. These are the GIM KB28. They actually come with actual a fan hub and controller, which is pretty dope. And so, and the actual fans are white. I actually thought they were black looking at this, but on the side of the box, it actually is marked white. And so, yeah, it's SATA powered. Comes with all the screws. I think this controller actually does up to 10 fans. And then it comes with a remote. So that is pretty dope. So we got 2 of these. We have Corsair Vengeance RAM. And so this is actually this Corsair Vengeance Pro. This is 16 gigs, 2 8GB sticks. This is actually, I don't know if you can see that there, but this is CL19, but it gets up to 4,000 megahertz. So this is pretty cool. He was already made aware that he will probably, if he's doing video editing, 16 gigs gets you started, but you really need 32. For the hard drive, we had a WD Black SN850, gets up to 7,000 on the actual read speed. One of the fastest drives out right now, along with the Samsung 980 Pro and the FireCuda 530. But yeah, super fast drive, PCIe 4.0, 4th generation, and you actually need a motherboard to be able to complement that. And here we actually have the Gigabyte Z590. It's been a while since I did an Intel build, so definitely looking forward to this. Great motherboard. It comes with everything that you need. PCIe 4.0, 2.5 gigabyte Ethernet. Yeah, I mean, it covers the board. This is a really, really good board. It's a sleek board at that, and so that's going to take care of everything. And then we have the EVGA 1000 GQ 1000 watt power supply. We got 1000 watt because this is going to be used for mining, so efficiency comes into play. This system is probably going to be running 24/7, so you want to make sure that you got enough for the graphics card. I generally recommend 850, but because it's going to be running 24/7, it's nothing wrong with overcompensating. He may decide to upgrade the graphics card in the future, or he may decide to add in, I know he's going to add in more hard drives and more stuff, so 1000 watts, future proof, you'll be good to go. And then we have the case, and I'm going to clear this off and I'm going to bring the case on. Okay, so for the case, as you can see, we have the PC011 Dynamic XL. This is the ROG certified version, which comes with the it's a lot more inputs and stuff like that that's on the front, and also RGB. And you know, of course, with certified, if you had a ROG motherboard, it has connectors, and you know, all the syncs up with the lights and all the stuff like that too. So it's pretty cool. This is the XL version. Thing I like about this is that it's big, makes it really easy to be able to build in. Also, there's a couple of, now, if you follow this channel too, you know that I have the regular size version of this case, which I currently use right now, which is the regular PC Lian PC011 dynamic. But this top slides off. All right, so that pops off, and when you do that, you can be able to take the tempered glass off. And as you can see on the inside of the case, one thing that my friend did already, he actually he installed a previous motherboard. He already had the power supply stuff and some of the front panel connectors plugged in, but something went wrong with that particular motherboard. And so, yeah, we got the new motherboard over here, and we're going to get everything installed. But it's a lot of room in this case. So what we're going to do, the thing that I envision is actually being able to, so he has a total of 6 RGB fans. So we're going to put 3 at the bottom for intake to cool off the GPU. We're going to do another 3 on the side right here for intake. What we're going to do is actually put a fan back here, 120 millimeter fan back here. This is an Artua fan for exhaust. And then what I'm thinking about doing is actually putting these 240 millimeter fans at the top for exhaust. And so I think that's actually going to work. So I'm looking forward to this build. It's been a while since I did a PC build. I'll definitely put a link in the description below of all of the parts that you see today. If you click on those links and buy anything, it definitely helps out the channel. No extra cost to you. So as I flip this around, this actual side comes off, side panel. Like I said, the actual power supply is already installed. This actually comes with 2 hard drive bays that I already have there. The actual SATA connections and power is already there. So they're like plug and play. They slide out, slide in. You could actually remove these bays and put in another power supply because of how big the system is, and you could run the actual dual system. If you had 2 mini RTX boards, you could run a dual system out of here. These are the front panel connectors. If you do this, so on the front panel, you got the power button right here. We have a reset button, 2 USB ports. You got your audio, USB-C, and down at the bottom, you also have 2 USB ports as well. So you got a lot of connections and stuff that's on the front. I love the Lian cases. They're just good. Some of the cables, I'll go over these as we go through the build, but you actually have 2 USB connectors, USB cables. You have your audio, your HD audio cable. All of the cables that are coming out of the drives here. The drive cages are SATA and then SATA power. And then you actually have your USB-C cable. Then you have your front panel connectors. And so, yeah. Okay, so we have the Vision motherboard here. Let's open this up. And Gigabyte Vision. And we have some actual SATA cables. We got the manual. We got the M.2 screws. Doing PC builds for me is like being like a kid in a candy store. You definitely need to make sure that you take off all the plastic. First thing that we're gonna do is actually the CPU. This is the protector. Always make sure we lift this lever up. You lift it all the way up. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the CPU. So obviously you've probably seen this 1,000 times now. But if this is your first time checking out one of my builds, then welcome. All right, so we got the CPU, and so what you gotta do is open this up, and a couple of things to remember: don't touch the top or the bottom of the CPU. You kind of want to hold it by the sides, just like that. On the back side, there's a small triangle in the picture, but a small triangle right there. That triangle actually lines up with the triangle here. So what you have to do is this actually just drops in. So once you drop it in, kind of give it a wiggle a little bit, You're going to close this. Now, it's going to feel weird because this black piece is going to pop off. Boom. You just install your CPU. All right, so the next step is let's install the actual RAM. Now, usually, a lot of times with inside the manual, and it will say on the motherboard itself sometimes, the first slot is A1, then you have A2, B1, and B2. So A1, A2, B1, B2. So the RAM goes in A2, B2. Always check your manual. Now, obviously, if you had 4 slots, it didn't matter which one you put them in because you're filling all of them in. But for the RAM, you're installing the RAM on this particular board is A2, B2. All right, so now we will install our hard drive. So let's take a look here. Again, this is the SN850. So obviously with these drives, they look like a stick of gum. These things are super small. And yeah, we actually are going to install this to the top slot here, which this is a heatsink. And so we're gonna unscrew this, put this on. That's gonna protect your drive and also cool it down from the actual heat. So if you flip this over, it also has the actual plastic that you peel off. Wiggle this in, boom. And then we're gonna take our screw that was a part of the motherboard, and then boom. So we screw that in. You wanna make sure that you actually take the plastic off, and then you have the actual thermal pads here that's gonna help keep the drive cool, because 7,000 megabytes per second actually gets pretty warm, gets pretty toasty. So that slots back in, and then we could be able to screw this down. Boom. All right, so we installed the CPU, we installed the RAM, we installed the hard drive. Let's go ahead and actually get the case prepared so we could be able to put the motherboard in. Let's go. Okay, so before we even get the case ready, what we need to do is actually get the CPU cooler actually put on to the CPU. So at this point, as I put on the actual back plate, I started to realize that in the box, there aren't any mounting screws. So I called my buddy. I said, hey, did you have any, screws in the box? And he says, you know what? I got those screws and I misplaced them. So I'm at a crossroads at this point, and as you can see, I got the back plate on. I'm at a crossroads, and now I said, okay, hey, the actual stock cooler that comes with the 10700F, I got to put that on. So if you see that later on in the video, this is why. Okay, so what we're gonna do is actually put the fans on the fan tray. So I just took this out the bottom of the actual Lian case. Had to take the 2 screws out that was in the front. But what we are going to do, so this is actually supposed to, it goes in like that. So the wires need to come out the back. This is the front of the fan that's gonna pull air in. So we need to flip this over because we're gonna pull air up and it's gonna come out the top. So the orientation of the fan actually needs to go like this. All right, so I got the fans attached, and these actually go in like this. And what we could do, that's gonna go through there. That snaps in. I'm gonna put these screws back in here, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so we actually about to put the motherboard in. What I had to do, there were some missing screws with the actual CPU cooler that we was going to use. So what I am going to do, this motherboard already comes with a faceplate, and so let's get this lined up with the actual standoffs, and then we can put the screws in. So for the time being, to make sure that we could actually be able to get the system up and running, what we are actually going to do is install the CPU cooler that comes with the 10700F. I know, what a tragedy. So this automatically comes with the thermal paste pre-applied. And basically what you have to do, slot this in, but before we do that, let me go ahead and screw down the motherboard. And there's actually, you can't see it, but I'm gonna have to take this back off because another screw's supposed to go up under here from the motherboard, which is weird. They did the design like this, so that extra screw is actually right here. So going back to what I was saying earlier, yeah, it's a travesty we have to use this, but we don't have a choice right now, and we definitely got to be able to get this build up and running. All right, guys, so just to give you an update, like I said, the last thing that we did was I installed the fans down here at the bottom. You saw me do that. Put the same fans, the RGB fans. This is intake down at the bottom. We got the same fans here on the side. This is also intake, so it's gonna be pulling air in. So pulling air in from the bottom, pulling air in from the side. I added a Noctua exhaust fan, 120 millimeters. All of these are 120 millimeter fans. Added this for exhaust. And I actually went to Micro Center today because I ran into some compatibility issues. You know, we talked about the actual cooler that I originally had for this. The screws were misplaced. And so I went and actually picked up a new cooler. So this is the Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition. Definitely pretty dope. It supports the LGA 1200 socket, which is what we're using for Intel. And I actually, because I was running into some memory issues, the Corsair Vengeance Pro, this is the CL19, but it's 4,000 megahertz. The system, I decided to just test the system out before I finalized everything, and it wouldn't boot. And I had a LED indicator light right here on the motherboard. And again, this is the Gigabyte Vision G Z590, and it was telling me I was running into a RAM error. So kind of find out the processor we was using, the 10th gen Intel i7-10700F, and that RAM is not supported by this on the Z590 board. So found that out. I went and picked up a i7-11700K, which is the 11th gen, which actually goes with this board, and come to find out 10th gen does not support PCIe 4.0. Just found that out, which is weird. But anyways, with upgrading to this, still 8 cores, this is actually the K version, so it is overclockable if you wanted to, but definitely it supports the Corsair RAM, and so hopefully we shouldn't have any boot problems. And also with the SN850 PCIe 4.0 drive that we have in here, you know, all of this should match up now, so we should be good to go. So let's finish this build. We're looking good. I actually also picked up 2, even though I'm using this one for exhaust, because we have a lot of airflow coming in, I actually want to be able to exhaust that airflow as well. So we're going to put 2 140 millimeter fans, Arctic fans, up at the top for exhaust. And so this is actually going to be able to help out. So it's going to have great airflow in the case. We got the influx of air, exhaust coming out the top and also out the back. And so, yeah, we're going to be good to go. So I just need to actually take this off and then take the actual CPU that we have on here off with this new cooler here, the HyperX 212, which looks pretty dope. RGB fan. This is 120 millimeter. This actually is gonna look pretty sleek in here. All right, guys, so I took the actual hard drive trays out so I can get access to the back of the motherboard. You need these type of screws, and what they do is on here it says Intel here at the top. And so what you're gonna do is you're actually going to put this in and slot that in like that. And then you take these actually clips and it's gonna come down, and you actually need to push this down till you get to the second. So you have 3 notches and you actually need to get to the second one. So you do the same thing all the way around. Okay, so what we're doing now is we actually are going to attach these brackets here to the actual cooler itself. I took the actual fan off. So what we are going to do, these actually go on top like this. Once you got that tight, boom, it looks like that. This is going to sit on top of the CPU. And now what we need to do is we actually need to pull this off, because what we are going to do is actually put the thermal paste on the CPU. So Cooler Master actually has thermal paste. And so, yep, we're gonna put this on the CPU. Just a little dot, and then we'll keep it moving. And we are going to squeeze pea-size amount. So what we're gonna do, this actually just sits on top. Had to adjust and move the springs. You keep turning till you can't turn them off. Not to over tighten. And now we just need to put the fan back on. This is super easy. So this has two connectors. One is for the RGB, which is gonna be up at the top here. It's 12 volt, and then the CPU fan connector. So this actually just snaps on the front. So it's pretty easy. So we have that installed. What I need to do is actually test out the RAM, and I am actually going to see if this boots. The 10700K comes with the integrated Intel graphics, so we should be able to just plug this up to one of my monitors. Just test boot. I just want to make sure I can be able to boot up and have no issues. Then we'll throw in a graphics card, and then I'm put in the actual 140mm fans, and then we'll be good to go. All right, what's up, good people? So here's what I did. I actually went and bought the Corsair 3200 megahertz because after reading the actual motherboard manual, this is the highest that this board supports as far as megahertz. Hopefully, maybe after a BIOS update, maybe they'll support more, but going by what it says, so we actually are going to do a test boot real quick just to see if this fixed the issue that we was running into, which I hope it does. Let's see if we post. So the great thing is I'm not seeing the RAM LED light anymore. So I'm just waiting for something to pop up on the screen. So that's a good indicator. The LED light on the motherboard is actually showing the boot LED. And usually that just means that it's not an operating system install, which is not, you know, we have to install that, but, oh, there we go. Look, it was already in, I had to hit we got boot. Yes, sir. All right, so let's move on. Okay, last thing that we have to do, system is looking great. Like I said, we got the fan, exhaust fan on the back, 240mm fans up at the top, 320mm fans at the bottom for intake, 320mm fans on the side for intake, and then everything else is exhaust. We got the Cooler Master Hyper 212 sitting on top of the Intel 1107K, 8 cores, 16 threads, 16 gigabytes worth of 3200 megahertz memory. He's actually going to add another 16 in, so to give it a total of 32. Last but not least, I think y'all know what this is. This is the RTX MSI 3080 graphics card, the Gaming X Trio version. Card is phenomenal. Obviously, I know these are still hard to get, but they are available. This takes 3 8-pin connectors, which is what we have here. GPU is up there pretty strong. And if I can zoom in here. So next thing we need to do, well, the last thing that we need to do is actually plug in the 8-pin connectors. We have a completed build. And now for the moment that we've all been waiting for. Turn this bad boy on. Woo! Gotta do the peel out that front panel. Woo!